The experience for me was life-changing.
My whole worldview is being kind of turned upside down right now.
That I loved it. I loved it. I had never actually experienced something like that.
Welcome to CASAS, Central American Study and Service, the Spanish Language and Cultural Studies program of SEMIA, the Latin American Anabaptist Seminary. We invite you to join us for a mind-expanding, heart-changing journey here in Guatemala, a country of spectacular beauty, dramatic contrasts, and profound social dilemmas. More than just a language school, CASAS offers North American students the opportunity to learn Spanish while building relationships and listening to the stories of Guatemalan brothers and sisters. The core of the program is an intercultural term that blends language acquisition, cultural understanding, and service to form a holistic approach to learning. We call this approach Education for Transformation.
El programa de CASAS tiene tres elementos importantes que pueden aprovechar todos estudiantes.
The CASAS program contains three elements that benefit all of its students. First, it has professors who understand the language and can teach its formal structure and oral usage. Not only this, CASAS places students in the real world. Students are not just learning by what they read and remember, but what they are living and experiencing 24 hours a day. Second, our students have access to grassroots organizations, for example, in politics or human rights, as well as guest lecturers that provide context for the political, economic, social, and religious context of Guatemalan culture. Third, our students have the opportunity to serve others.
El estudiante tiene también la gran oportunidad de servir.
Formal language study takes place in the mornings at SEMIA's recently completed complex here in Guatemala City.
Yo creo que los maestros de casa es un grupo bien selecto.
I think that the teachers at CASAS are a very select group. They have lots of experience with North American students and the teaching of another language, and they have had special training. They are very professional.
Las diferencias que hay entre una escuela.
The difference between CASAS and most other Spanish language schools is that we, as teachers, have a relationship as close friends, as brothers and sisters with our students. We aren't simply teaching language and its structure. We are also teaching our culture, our thoughts, our ideas. We mix the teachings of grammar with the culture and with experiences of the people in our communities.
I've been impressed with not only how the classrooms are set up. You know, there are only, I think, 1 or 2, maybe 3 students per teacher, but you're not just sitting in a classroom every day. You take field trips, and Guatemala really serves as the classroom to your experience here.
Most CASAS students live with a family in a marginal community of Guatemala City. While this means adjusting to a different standard of living than most North Americans are accustomed to, it also leads to a new appreciation for human relationships and an increased awareness of the pressures facing many in the urban third world.
Las familias integran a los estudiantes.
The families integrate the students into their homes. They become part of the Guatemalan family.
My family in Guatemala was probably, when I look back and reflect back, is probably the best experience of the CASAS program. And it was also the one that I was most worried about before coming. They didn't treat me like a guest. They treated me like I was their son and their brother and their nephew, and the family invited me into their lives.
They make me feel like a part of the family. Just always initiating conversation with me and asking me about, just interested in me and my life, and willing to share about their lives. My homestay was probably the highlight of my time here.
Students spend the final month of the term participating in a service learning placement, putting into practice the skills they've acquired during the previous 8 weeks of study.
That's really a time when they have to put into practice their Spanish learning. And most of our students have found that those final 4 weeks are not only a break from the classroom, but a time of real personal growth and transformation. The program is really about personal transformation, and we found that to be true across the board.
There are numerous options for placement. Past students have worked in health, housing, education, textiles, and appropriate technology.
I was at Hogar del Niño, which is in the Quiche region of Guatemala, and it's an orphanage for children, and it started in 1981 as an orphanage for families whose parents were killed during the Civil War, and the kids needed to go somewhere.
For my service learning project, I wanted to stay and learn more Spanish, but I also wanted to learn how to weave. And so CASAS had a connection already established with a woman who knows how to weave, an indigenous woman who lives here in the city.
Finally, CASAS encourages students to wrestle with questions of faith and ethics. Issues of peace, justice, and Christian faithfulness are of primary importance to the Guatemalan Anabaptist Mennonites, who find themselves in a polarized and unjust society.
God has used this trip to open up my heart towards Central Americans, and He has done that in many ways. How the Mayan people just mix Mayan spirituality with Catholicism, and that has kind of challenged my faith and has made me question, like, what is it that I believe and why is it what I believe?
Being able to go to these services and seeing the way they worship has changed my perspective and thinking, you know, God works in different ways and works to people differently, and CASAS has made that experience for me. As far as my faith, I have grown greatly, seeing things and learning about things that I didn't know before. My understanding of people has changed.
So like I say, I'm still thinking through this. I'm still trying to really figure out how I'm supposed to live, having had this experience. Being sensitive to suffering and injustice for other peoples. I think CASAS, Samia, they're doing it.
If you're thinking about doing the CASAS program, do it. If you've made it so far to think that you want to stretch yourself, if you want to challenge yourself and learn more about yourself and more about the world and realities that we live in, if you've made it that far in the thinking process, then do it.
Bienvenidos sean todos los norteamericanos. Bienvenidos sean a este país de amor. Pueden aprender español y muchas cosas. Bienvenidos sean a Guatemala. Bienvenidos sean en este país. Sí, sean bienvenidos a este país. Pueden aprender muchas cosas aquí. Muy bien, muy bien, brother.